I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, or good evening I should say, and welcome to the 2021 Formula SimRacing Pro Championship, here from Indianapolis. Of course, on cameras, on cameras we have the ever faithful Felix van Delft. Today, you don't have the normal Aidan Millward with his dulcet smooth tones, bringing you the action. You have myself, Alex Skinner. I'm coming up from Academy for this round to cover in for the sadly ill Aidan Millward, so we of course wish him well. But Felix, Indianapolis, a circuit that's not really used by many open wheel racing leagues anymore, but after its success during the IndyCar Winter Series, we've got very good potential on our hands, especially with the updates that we have had recently with the rear tyres and the dirty air.
Yeah, we've had a great Academy race already earlier today. Of course, quite a bit of action in the first few laps, which proved that the overtaking has been improved a little bit. So let's hope that these drivers in Pro are also able to show that. But let's have a quick look first at how the championship is looking right now, because of course last race had a bit of a tumultuous end with the premature red flag, which caused the race to end. This is the wrong thing. This one is the one we should have.
Of course, looking at a championship, Felix, I mean, you know, having not really looked much at the Pro Championship, it is extremely close indeed after the first 5 rounds championship. And of course, as we hit the halfway mark this time out, we're going to start seeing who's really setting themselves up for the remainder of the season. Of course, this is the first race of the Triple Crown. Remember, of course, we have Indianapolis, Azure, and Le Mans to come for the Triple Crown this season. And of course, there are going to be many drivers, probably a bit further down the championship order, but especially at the front, that are going to want that Triple Crown title. And well, of course, it will be a separate standings alongside the main championship. So remember, not only have we got our main championship fights to focus on, we have got the Triple Crown Championship. And Felix, I mean, you look at the championship standings right now as they are, I wouldn't be surprised to see some little shake-ups here and there in the actual Triple Crown Championship.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, that is because it's so much shorter than the real championship. An opportunity for drivers that normally are a bit further down the field in the general sense in the championship can get some good results and perhaps snatch away some of those championships or the Triple Crown Championship as a whole. But I think the qualifying session has started, so let's quickly jump over to that.
As we move into qualifying, thank you, Felix, the first cars are on the circuit. First times have been set, and we have 7 minutes and 17 seconds remaining. Alex, get your words right. It's only the first broadcast of the day for you. You shouldn't be mincing your words as such. But currently on the pole is Jan Vosnicker, 103.446, and the 10th behind him is Adam Rainey. Good to see Adam Rainey in the Pro Championship this race because, of course, he's not long finished the Academy race not too long ago. Meanwhile, as we say that, Tom Oldenmenger jumps up, not even a hundredth of that pole time, 5,000ths of a second. We're currently having a look at Marek Godek, who will go fastest by half a second, 102.9 for the Go Speed driver, as we now move our way down to Ivan Leonov in the Netrex. Of course, good to see the familiar names, the familiar faces, especially to someone like myself, who has been covering the lower tiers of FSR for the past few years, and of course, many regular names to the series as well. Ivan Leonov coming through the final few corners now. Of course, not using the MotoGP chicane. We're using the 2006 layout. Sorry, not the 2006 layout, the 2009 layout. I would Yeah, again, sorry, Felix. My brain is having an amazing time of this here today. The amount of changes this circuit has gone through over the years, it is nothing but expected for me to make some fool of myself here today. Roivers and Ivanov and Leonov all jump up to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, which makes it a Netrex 2, 3, 4, and 5. Netrex looking extremely strong here today. They were very strong in the Academy Championship race not too long ago, but didn't have the pace to seal the deal. However, a team that did have the pace to seal the deal, Royal Blue Racing, Simon Frelick goes to 7th, half a second off the poles. We now will have a look once again at Marek Godek in the Brain GP Cup. That's not Marek Godek, sorry, that is on Hives in the Brain GP Cup. Make his way down the back straight. 90-degree left-hander, and, well, what used to be a set of double hairpins is now a fast right-left sweeper, and of course, one of those improvements to the circuit, in my opinion. Makes it through the right-hander. And now out, you fire it down. And of course, what used to be a full throttle section glass to the line, you suddenly have a braking zone in the way. Get the car turned in. Don't let it over-rotate on the transition from the banking. It is so easy to do. Nice and gentle on the throttle. Makes it out of the final corner. It's a personal best in Sector 1. No improvement in Sector 2. What will it be in Sector 3 for Hives? And he's going to jump him up to 6th, 3/10 off the pole with a 103.2. Now having a look at Viktor Ivanov. Of course, Netrex driver currently sat in 3rd place. Goes through the fast left-right chicane. Not an improvement in Sector 1, slightly slower. But of course, that Netrex we know is very strong through the middle sector. We've seen it all throughout the day. So we'll see what that car can do. It's a little bit of a rear end slide through there. As he makes his way towards the end of the 2nd sector and into the final sector. It's an improvement in the middle sector. Now this is where we should expect to see that Netrex come alive, coming into the final few corners. Slightly wide off the apex there. Doubt that's lost him too much time, and no, he's going to actually bail out of this lap. Not feeling confident in that time. Meanwhile, Marek Godek comes into the final sector, not on an improvement whatsoever. But have a feeling he's going to escape out, and with 3 minutes left, might be a wise idea to get one final flying lap in. Currently having a look at Jan Vosnica, another one of the Netrex drivers here today. Makes his way through the final few corners now. He's actually on a fastest middle sector, personal best Sector 1, so this could be looking good for the pole time here. We'll see what the pole can do. Out of the final corner, brings it as far to the right, slight little bit of a nudge with the wall. Not sure how much time that will lose him. It's not going to be an improvement. I would not be surprised if that cost him a higher place there, Felix. But as Noah Roivers is currently on an improvement as well, can he find that extra little smidge of time? He makes his way out of the corner. We'll see what Roivers can do. Nice and tight to the wall there, across the line now. And it is pole for Roivers by 0.07 of a second, Felix.
Extremely close indeed for Noah Roivers, but he's been able to be consistent throughout this championship, and once again, looking good today here. Provisional pole position for him, but it is very close. Ivanov and Leonov actually had the exact same lap time. So not only do they have almost the exact same name, right now they also do have the exact same lap time. Leonov though is on a improvement in the first 2 sectors, so let's see if he can change that, so we don't get even more confused than we already get normally as he comes across the line for a improvement. Nope, not an improvement, so we're still going to be confused.
Oh, I didn't think it was that difficult to get Ivanov and Leonov correct, Felix. So, yeah, I think both of us have been around the paddock for a long enough period of time now that we don't have that issue. Meanwhile, we're going to have a look at Cas Rietveld in the Burst Simplex, the eSports car. Currently sat in 7th, setting up for his final run of the session. A minute and 46 seconds left on the clock, so he's only going to get this one lap in, I believe. I believe he's the only car really on lap outside of Thomas Vock at the moment. Speaking of, Thomas Vock actually improving the first sector, nothing in the middle sector. But will obviously come across the line soon. I have a feeling he'll jump up potentially into the top 10. We will see. Out of the final corner comes Rietveld. We're going to go on board for a lap. Out of the final corner, blasts across the line. The Dutchman makes his way towards turn 1. Hits the brakes as late as he dares. Slight little squirm of the car coming into turn 1. Rear end slides through turn 2. makes his way through the fast right of turn 3 into turn 4 and gets that car nice and level to set yourself up for the fast chicane. So important to get that right, especially over the curbing. No improvement in sector 1, but we'll see what he can do in the middle sector. Anytime you lose in the first sector could really be made up in that middle sector. Such a technical sector with so many traction zones and sort of line critical corners that, you know, it's really easy to make anything up. Makes his way now out into the final sector. No improvement in the second sector. Viktor Ivanov will set a personal best lap, jump himself, well, keep himself third, as Rietveld will come out of the final corner now and blast his way. Don't think it'll be an improvement for the Dutchman. I think he realises this as well across the line. And it is an improvement ever so slightly, but not by much. Meanwhile, Marek Godek is on his final lap, gets across the line with 8 seconds remaining just about. So we'll see what Ghostspeed can do. Can they get a pole position here today? No improvement in the first sector. Of course, he's only got to find 0.08 of a second here compared to Noah Roivers. And meanwhile, makes his way through the fast S. Is it going to be an improvement in the middle sector? The rear end gets very loose there. He makes his way to the right-hander. Noah Roivers on improvement himself. So whatever Godek does, he's got to worry about Roivers actually improving as well. But Netrex, you've got to admit, Felix, even if this is a pole lap, Netrex are looking very strong here today.
They definitely are. Final sector for Godek needs to be good across the line. And it's not an improvement. Rovers might be able to improve his lead by a little bit. No improvement for him as well. So I think it will be a pole position here today for Noah Rovers once again.
Great to see Netrex first, third, fourth, and fifth here. And here are the results. Of course, Noah Roivers Netrex Grand Prix on pole. 102.855. Only 0.07 of a second ahead of the go speed of Marek Godek. Viktor Ivanov will line up third for Netrex. Fourth will be Ivan Leonov for Netrex. And, well, you're getting a pattern here, Felix. Fifth will be Jan Wozniakow for, you guessed it, Netrex. Sixth place is going to be Zoltan Hives in the Brem GP. Great qualifying for him. Simon Frelick for Royal Blue Racing will line up 7th with Kessel Riedfeld and Tom Oldenmenger, the two Burst Complexity eSports cars that are in the top 10, starting 8th and 9th. Alvaro Torres for Brain GP will start in 10th, half a second off of the pole time. That shows just how close this top 10 is here today.
Definitely. Let's have a look now quickly though at what Michi Hoyer thinks about this track as he takes us for a hot lap around this Indianapolis GP track.
Hello everyone, this is Formula SimRacing. My name is Michi Hoyer and I welcome you for the track presentation of Round 6, the United States Grand Prix. We are at the Indianapolis Grand Prix circuit and we're going around the final turn onto the big brickyard, the big long oval straight, and across the start finish line to start our presentation. That heavy braking zone into turn 1, the best overtaking spot on the track for sure. Straight into turn 2, need to be persistent there a bit with the throttle to allow enough rotation, and straight into turn 4 you go. Stay on the inside here because you need to set up for that quick and tricky chicane, high curves 5 and 6 onto the back straight into turn 7, and now we have 4-way chicane. You go left and then there comes the quick chicane, you go right, you go left again. You want to stay on the inside because you need to set up for this turn 11 apex, trying to carry all the speed onto the exit curve, flat out through turn 12, line up on the outside, heavy braking zone again into 13. Don't want to go too wide there as well, so you want to straight open up the entry for 14 and then as early as possible onto the power, flat out through turn 15 onto the start finish straight. And guys, that is one lap around the Indianapolis circuit. I hope you will enjoy the Indy Grand Prix, the United States Grand Prix in the FSR 2021 season.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to round 6 of the 2021 Formula SimRacing Pro Championship here from the Indianapolis Grand Prix circuit here in the United States of America. Of course, myself, Alex Skinner, standing in for the sadly elevated Millweb, and of course on cameras as always is Felix van Delft, the ever faithful Dutchman in the broadcasting team. Felix, we've got 63 laps of racing ahead of us. It's going to feel like a long one, but well, with the upgrades that have been brought to the cars in terms of dirty air and rear tyres, we've seen in the lower tiers how good the racing can be. Well, it's pro, it's known for being aggressive, and I definitely can see some good racing happening today. Yeah, and the field is very close, as we saw in qualifying. Just half a second between the entire top 10, so I think there's going to be quite a bit of battling between those drivers in the top 10 and probably also outside of the top 10. Of course, the points go down all the way to 15th position. Triple Crown going to be in the back of the people's minds, but of course I think especially for guys like Nora Rovers and Jan Woznicka, it's all focus is mainly going to be on, of course, the main championship. Strategy wise today, I think two-stop is probably going to be dominant. 63 laps max you can really take out of one tank. I think in Academy we saw 22 or 23 laps maybe, but that's stretching it. So could maybe see somebody do an extra stop, a 3-stop, but I don't know if that will be working. But you never know. We've seen time and time again that people keep surprising us regarding strategy. So I'm not ruling anything out, but I'm definitely guessing for now that the two-stop is going to be the dominant one. But I think the drivers are getting ready to go onto the grid and start the race in just a bit. Well, we can take the final breaths and the final popcorn grabbing because, of course, it's the calm before the storm that is the Pro Championship. Of course, brought to you by 3D-Rap, Mazetta eSports, and, of course, our ever-faithful sponsor, SimLab. And, of course, as we look at the grid, it's Noah Roivers and Marek Godek on the front row. Nope. Followed. Noah Roivers and Marek Godek on the front row. Netrex and Go Speed, ever-faithful rivals, followed by the dual Netrex pair of Viktor Ivanov and Ivan Leonov. See, Felix, it's not that difficult. Coming up on row 3 is Jan Woznicka and Zoltan Hives, Netrex and Brain GP. In 7th will be Simon Frelich for Royal Blue Racing. 8th will be Kaz Rietveld for Burst Simplexity. In 9th it'll be Tom Oldermenger for Burst Simplexity, followed by Alvaro Torres for Brain GP. The Royal Blue pair of Jakub-Pekka Laulu and so will line up in 12th and 11th and 12th with Adam Rainey and Arif Roslan 13th and 14th. Danny Robbins and Thomas Vock in 15th and 16th. And in 17th and 18th will be Cameron Roger and Matthew Tewson. 19th will be Tom Lambert, and in 20th will be George Chentapantelis. And well, Felix, I'm going to try and not get any more names wrong, as Sergio Fletcher and Cosmo Pesciuto will round out the grid here. I'm going to, try and not, fluster any more words and get my tongue twisted. Yeah, drivers are already on the formation lap, so we'll just wait for them to get to the end of this and then start the 63 lap race, as we can have a quick look at already which tires everybody is on so far. Pretty much everybody on the soft tires, except for Arif Roslan, Matthew Tewson and Tom Lamberts further down the field. So they will maybe try a different strategy. We'll have to wait and see, but inside of the top 10, top 13, there's nobody that's really trying to do anything different on tires. Maybe on fuel, we'll have to wait and see, or maybe some guys are doing a 3-stop, some guys are doing a 2-stop. It is just wait and see. We can't really say much. Oh, no, please don't spin into the pit wall. I think that's not a great way to start your race, but just warming up those tires, warming up those brakes, getting ready to start this race. And as Felix finishes his attempts at poetry, the rest of the field will line up line astern in 2x2, very much in Noah's Ark formation, as the final few drivers will grid up. We have a look at the first of the Invictus cars, and we zoom in on the front of the field as we wait for the lights to flare up in red. Of course, the gantry in beautiful view indeed. The flagman standing there going, oh, come on, how long? There we go. Well, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. Oh, that was a jump start from one of the Royal Blues, but we're away here for the Pro Race of the Indianapolis circuit. And already, Roivers covering over as best he can. He's got Godek and Ivanov trying to follow with him. We go in towards turn 1. They are 3 wide on the 3rd row of the grid, side by side between Godek and Roivers. Godek has got the lead out of turns 2, but he's still side by side with Roivers. Roivers on the inside. Godek is not going to be able to get past here because it's single file through the chicane, but he's going to drop back. Leonov 3rd, Ivanov 4th, Hives up to 5th. And there's some change in the mid-pack. Meanwhile, a change potentially no. Leonov has to back out of it. Meanwhile, I thought I saw someone having a slide there. Yes, I believe that was rFactor. It was one of the Burst Simplicity cars losing a place, and I believe it was because Olmenga is up a place now into 7th. Meanwhile, as we look at Voznica, they make their way into the final sector for the first time of asking. I see the 2 Royal Blues side by side in the background as well, as they will try and weave their way through this final sector with as minimal issues as possible. As we head on to lap 2, Roivers already with a second of a gap, Felix. That Netrex absolutely flying at the moment. But as you look down, you can already see a move being made here. That is Voznica and Hives. Hives wide out of turn 1. And Voznica says, thank you very much. I'll swoop around the outside and take that place away from you. And it makes it nice and easy. Of course, Oldemang at 7th, Riedfeld in 8th. These 2 trying to do all they can to catch up to the back of the Brain GP car of Zoltan Hives. That is, these guys will do what they can. They're not actually that far off. They're within a nice slipstream range. And of course, looking at the tower, the top 12 drivers all on the softs. Arif Roslan, the first driver to be on an alternate strategy so far. I take that back. It's the top 13 on the softs as Roslan has just been passed by Adam Rainey. But into the final chicane for the second time of asking, and that is Cameron Rogers spun around at the back of the field. Well, the broadcast crew placed their bets, and, well, I was the furthest one out on lap 5, and I think Thomas Lentz was the closest with lap 2. So, Thomas Lentz, cash in the check, and I think you've got some money coming your way. Meanwhile, in the we're going to have a replay of the bet-winning moment as well. Apologies for the graphic on the screen as well. Oh, slight lock of the rear differential. The rear comes out and onto the grass. Round goes Cameron, and you can just see the world sliding past as he locks the brakes and spins the car around. No damage outside of, well, damage probably to the tyres and most likely to his ego. But outside of that, nothing major, and he can continue on. Although there has been a crash at turn 1 between Fletcher and Roslan. So Roslan from, I believe that actually would have been an incident, actually, as a 4th to 14th place, Felix. So already Cameron making up 2 places from the issue. And Roslan doesn't seem to be moving. Is that going to be our first retirement for the race? Yes, it is on lap 3 here. The first time being Arif Roslan. Wonder what happened there, not too sure. All I know is that there was contact between him and Fletcher, I believe. Meanwhile, Cameron Roger makes his way past Matthew Tucson, so he's up another place. As we currently ride on board with Voznica. It's a Netrex 1, 3, 4 and 5, so Netrex doing the best they can to lock out every single worthwhile points paying position. I see a front wing on the inside there, so I have a feeling we're going to be seeing Fletcher into the pit lane for a new one very, very shortly, alongside a couple of other cars as well. Actually, I see Chantapantelis in the pit lane, I believe, because he is in alongside Matthew Tucson. So, who's lost the front wing and who's in for a scheduled stop? Or have both of them lost front wings? That's the question that we need to know.
I think Chatsipantelis indeed without a front wing, and Tucson probably too. I don't think any scheduled stops would be this early in lap 4 already, so we just have to wait and see for that. Tucson, relatively long stop for him indeed. Probably taking a bit of fuel as well. Now, as we cut back to Leonov, who's trying to catch back up to Marek Godek. Godek doing a good job so far in the Netrex sandwich.
I mean, of all sandwiches to be in, is the Netrex sandwich all that bad at the end of the day? Meanwhile, I see an Invictus coming out of the pit lane, keeping slightly contact between him and Tucson and Leonov. Oh, dearie, dearie me. That is not what Ivan Leonov wanted to see. And I don't think that's really what he wanted to happen either. Drops down, down, down. 13th, 14th, 15th. He will rejoin with some very, very square tyres after that. That'll be one for the steward's inquiry post-race, and I don't think that Netrex are going to be too happy. We're on board. Let's see what happened. Tucson knows he's there, and I don't know whether he tried to get out of the way or not there. It's a bit difficult to see, really. But either way, 2 cars into one very, very similar piece of tarmac doesn't always go. And just slight contact between him and Leonov, which, of course, ultimately has cost Leonov about 12 places. So, one Netrex has fallen, but it has promoted Ivanov and Voznica up a place, and it's also promoted Hive in the Brame GP car up into the top 5 as well. So, good to see. Yeah, into turn 1, they must go. And, well, what's your take on that, Felix?
Yeah, tough to say, but probably just a bit too optimistic from Tucson on the pit exit there. Of course, he did have the blue flags coming out, so should have yielded. Godak now has a bit more room to breathe from behind, but also the room to breathe in front is also maybe stretching a bit too much now. Starting to lose more and more time to Nora Rovers. His last lap time was about 2/10 quicker by Rovers of 104.3. So Rovers really showing once again he's got some pace here in the Pro Championship.
Yeah, nothing new there from Rovers and nothing new there from Netrex, especially this season. Really, really stepping up, especially here at Indianapolis. And another retirement as well to note. Chantapantalis is out after a very, very decent qualifying from him. He is out on lap 3, which is a shame to see. But of course, at the top of the field, start to slowly spread out, the pace difference starting to show. Be interested to see what these guys do in terms of strategy. Will some go longer, will some go shorter? Of course, we have to use both compounds of tyre here in Formula Sim Racing. The hard compound of tyres, the white wall tyres, and the soft compound of tyres, the red wall tyres that you can currently see fitted to Tom Oldenmenger's Burst Simplex, the eSports car. So he makes his way through into the second sector. No drivers have really swapped tyres yet in terms of people that have started on the hards. Oh, one that is still on the hards is Oldenmenger, and that's a spin for Voznica. Voznica has lost the rear end. Shame to see that he's locked down. Oh, 2 more cars have lost the rear end as well. What is going on? How many drivers are locking the rears into that corner? Because I've seen more. I've seen about 4 or 5 drivers now do that, Felix. And
yeah,
it's very uncharacteristic. There's another car I think I just saw spun as well.
I'm pretty sure rFactor who doesn't simulate oil on the track, but it sure seems like there's something right there. Let's have a look on board with Jan Voznica. What happened exactly there? He just lost it on the power.
Oh, lost it on the power.
Yeah.
Well, I'm now interested to see what happened to the 2 cars behind. Because 2 cars then lost it directly behind. Yeah, we looked behind. Oh, there was contact there. Oh, slightly optimistic, I think, from the Royal Blue car, and maybe just a slight bit of contact or misunderstanding of the, the gap and the room that was there. So easy to do, especially that corner, though, just solely due to the way that car, not the way that the car is, sorry, but how tight that corner is, especially with the speed difference if you're trying to maybe go for a late lunge. So it does happen. No, so it wasn't an oil slick this time, at least. But, well, hey-ho, it wouldn't be surprised if it was something like that. Leonov into the pit lane for down in 19th. Now he's going to go a lap down, I believe. It depends, actually, if he gets out in front of Roivers or not, sorry. So we ride on board with Oldenmenger still. Half a second off the back of Hive. Slightly wide out of the final corner. And yes, Leonov will go a lap down. He's going to go a lap down to, I believe that is... that's not 4th place Hive. That's actually Matt Tucson. He is out behind, so I believe... No, he is... I'm trying to figure out if he's actually ahead or behind of Tucson.
I think he's behind Ivanov.
Ah, yes. That would make sense then. My brain's failing to recognise colours today, apparently, Felix. But either way, it's nothing new from my end. It wouldn't be a broadcast with myself on it if I wasn't getting something. Yes. But either way, as we still ride on board with Oldenmenger, he's got a very, very obvious Brame GP rear end in front, and that Brame seems to be a bit less stable through that middle sector at the very least. Doesn't seem any slower, but it just seems to be a bit more in favour of getting that rear end out compared to the Burst. Potentially could just be driving styles anyway. Meanwhile, this could be an overtake on the making. Depends how good the slipstream is for Oldeming as he charges down the front straight. About 4/10 the gap between the two. To make the way towards turn 1, he ducks out. He ducks back in. Slight lock up on the front right tyre for Hives. So it's going to compromise his exit. Not going to compromise it too much, but just enough for Oldeming to go. Oh, he's starting to crack maybe. I've got a bit of an advantage here. And we'll see what Oldeming can do. Lines very much different through that first sector as well for the two. So it's interesting to see. It's also good to see Aiden in the chat as well, watching along. Probably just watching over, making sure I'm not doing a bad job of his little baby championship, Felix. So, you know, hopefully he's proud, and we'll hope to see him back for the next round of the championship and round 7. Meanwhile, round 6 is still going on, and that midfield pack you can see on the track map is extremely close indeed. A lot of drivers not even a second apart at the moment. There's plenty of battles going on down the order, and Jan Woznica up to 11th now, just got him past Thomas Vogt, and I think he's going to be looking to try and get past Danny Robbins to get back into the top 10. The sounds of the Formula Sim racing cars, absolutely beautiful as always. The V6, the turbo hybrids, of course, based on the 22 regulations. Sorry, the cars that are coming for next year in real life Formula 1. Having a little bit of a taster of what could be to come in real life, and it'll be interesting to see how the real life teams manage to develop. But of course, in terms of Formula Sim racing, all things were created equal outside of the setups and the driver talent, of course. As you can see, Oldeming a lot closer this time by. Will he be able to get that move done into turn 1? He seems to lose a bit there through the final sector. Doesn't seem to be able to capitalise, and then just runs it slightly wider through that final slight right-hander. And it does, you know, just bring that car a bit off the back of the Bahrain GP car. And a slight wider line there is going to drop him off as well. Maybe getting caught in that aero wash from the rear of the Bahrain GP car. Be interesting to see what can happen as well. Just looking down the order as well. Woznica still half a second back off of Danny Robbins. Lalu about 8/10 off the back of Torres. So some places potentially up for grabs. Meanwhile, cars that are still recovering. Cameron Roger up to 16th. Fletcher 17th at the moment. Lenov is just under half a minute away from Tom Lambert's, the final car that hasn't had an issue in this race. Adam Rainey up to 13th as well, and of course everyone else has mainly managed to keep themselves out of trouble for the first 12 laps of this race as we start lap 13 here at the US Grand Prix of Indianapolis as they make their way down towards turn 1. We'll see what they can do. No changes so far, as there is a car off actually at turn 2. Who has dropped it at turn 2? It's just in front of Hives. It is one of the net wrecks. Now, is that Ivanov actually, or is that?
I think it was Leonov.
It was Leonov. So panic over. It wasn't third place man Viktor Ivanov. It was Ivan Leonov. Makes his way towards turn 1. We'll see what happened behind his teammate. Oh, has to throw it up the inside. It looked like brake failure almost there. Wasn't slowing down. Probably screamed down the radio, "Do not turn in, otherwise I will take you out." But thankfully, managed no contact there. And it might have been a bit of a brown pants moment for Viktor Ivanov, actually. So thankfully, everyone made it through okay as we ride on board with race leader Noah Roivers. 2 seconds now ahead of Godex, who's gained a fair amount of time. About a second every 7 laps he has gained on Godex so far. Now having a look at his teammate, or one of his teammates, Jan Woznica, half a second off the back of Danny Robbins as they head towards turn 1. Hits the brakes following the Force Polonia. Just a bit of a slide there as well through turn 1. The rear end really not that planted, especially for Woznica's liking. Through the fast left-right chicane and down the back straight. He's only got a second in hand over Thomas Vock, so he's actually gapped Vock a bit. But, you know, Vock is still holding on strong. And it seems that everyone else has started to sort of settle into their own pace. Gaps are being created. And it's starting to turn into a bit of a strategy plan as the rear end on that Force Bologna car in front of Robbins getting very, very, very sideways there. Will that be the case for the rest of the race? And how much are those softs starting to wear for these guys? Of course, plenty of time left in this race. And, well, of course, not much left in the tanks of the fuel load one, I'd expect, Felix.
Yeah. I said before the race started, roughly 22, 23 laps is the max we saw in the Academy race earlier today. So much more than that, or any more than that, I wouldn't expect to see here in this race either. Probably most of the drivers were coming in on the 20th lap.
Well, 20 or so laps on a tank of fuel. And 20 or so laps for Noah Roivers to try and get a gap. And this, I think, is the closest that Oldermenger has been going into the final sector in this race. So we'll see what he can do. Right on the back of the Brain GP car. Will he lose much time? The rear end coming out on the back of Hives. And will he be able to make the most of it? No, he won't. That Brain car just so nice on traction, it seems. Maybe just a slight bit more confidence on the rear end of that car for Hives compared to Oldenmenger. That, or just a bit of a better differential setting potentially, as they make their way down to the first sector. Just seeing the difference in lines, it just doesn't seem to really cost anyone too much time. There's plenty of lines that you can take here. You know, normally that's mainly a thing in GT cars, but especially in open wheel cars, it's usually, one line suits all. But nice to see some difference in lines actually working out here today as they make their way through the middle sector. That's where that burst car gains so much time, but it just seems to lose it all through the first and final sectors. Just maybe a bit trimmed out is that Brain GP car compared to Oldenmenger's burst. Wouldn't be surprised. Slight little wiggle from both drivers. They make their way onto the banking. Rietveld a second and a half back off these guys now. So these guys are sort of in their own little world. No pressure from behind, no pressure in front. And meanwhile, somewhere that there is some pressure is Vosnica versus Robbins. He's only 3/10 back. Robbins knows this and he knows how powerful the slipstream is. Vosnica darts to the left around the outside of turn one. Not going to make it work. Robbins has got that covered. Slams the door shut on exit. What can Vosnica do compared to Robbins? Through the first sector, the rear end has gone again for Vosnica's Netrex. He's going to drop down behind Vok, behind Rainey, behind Pesciuto, maybe behind Barbakov. No, he's going to be out ahead of Barbakov. But this is not what Vosnica needs, especially where he's in the championship. Meanwhile, Tom Monbert's to the pits from 18th place here on lap 17. But another error from Vosnica drops him further down the order and just eases the pressure off the back of 10th place Robbins. Meanwhile, the gap is as close as it's ever been coming towards the start-finish line between Oldermenger and Hives. Will Hives defend, or does he feel confident? I have a feeling he feels confident. Holds his line, hits the brakes. And Oldermenger can't really do too much about it. Meanwhile, that's Torres getting past Rietveld. Did Torres have a dive there, Felix? Or was Rietveld caught napping? Because I did not see those two that close on track. But kudos to Torres. We're going to have a look at the replay. Oh, Torres into the penultimate corners. What has Rietveld done? Oh! Rear tyres on the curb, and he got past him before the first corner. So that was actually what we saw, was Rietveld trying to make the move to get back past the Brain GP car. Well, that's two Brain GP cars, very nice and solidly in the top 10 now. You have a look. Yeah, Torres slightly to the right, but giving enough room. Knows that Rietveld can't make it work, and Rietveld, well, having to go deep. Meanwhile, in the background, you can actually see positions changing there as well. I believe that was actually between Frelick and Lalu. So the two teammates swapping, swapping positions momentarily. And Rietveld is back past Torres as Torres is in the pit lane.
Oldermenger is going to have a look. More show of of his nose than really a move, but once again closed in a lot to Zoltan Hives. But the gap between Hives and Ivanov is also growing and growing. Bit of a different line for Hives. Gonna allow the slipstream for Oldermenger once again. Is he gonna go up the inside here? It's gonna be difficult. Gonna try it. Braking late and hard. Very close to each other, but not able to make that move stick. Has to slot in behind Zoltan Hives once again.
So tight between the two there through the middle sector. You gotta try and make the moves where you can. Well, kudos to Oldermenger. He's really trying, and he will have a good shot into turn 1. Well, I say that. Hives into the pit lane, so cancels the battle for now. We'll see what Hives can do. Will he get the car slowed down? A little lock up, but of course doesn't matter. Those tyres are worthless to him at this point. He will dive himself into the pit lane. The Brame GP driver gets into the pits, stops on his marks, goes onto the hard compound of tyre. Now this is interesting. Protect the first of the top runners to come in for hard tyres. We've seen Jan Wostinger do it as well, but of course he's a lot further down now, not in terms of strategy, but just in terms of events in this race. Rainey and Vokin as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see them go onto hards for this middle stint. Would make some form of sense, but we will see. Be a relatively equal stints on each of the compounds of tyres. I expect as well. We will see what Vok and Rainey do in terms of their strategy. Meanwhile, up the front, the top two will stay out some more. Roivers and Godek coming through into turn 1. Rietveld will stay out, and so will the rest of the guys there. And to confirm, Vok and Rainey actually onto another set of soft tyres in this race for the second stint. So they will be a lot quicker than Hives at this point. But of course, being quick is one thing, actually getting past is another.
Definitely, even though with the dirty air and the slipstream changes, it's not the easiest. It's not a push to pass or a DRS. So you still have to fight for it, but as we've seen, it is definitely possible. Zoltan Hives is in the grass.
Well, I know I said catching's one thing, but passing is another. Well, Zoltan Hives is kind of making that a lot easier for everyone else. Meanwhile, Robbins, Fletcher and Barbakov are in as well. We'll see what happens to Zoltan Hives. Makes his way into the first last corner. Oh, too much curb there. And then through the left-hander. That's a very odd spin. Actually, almost catches his teammate out there. That's a very awkward moment there. Just maybe over rotation or just cold tyres maybe?
Yeah, I guess. Robbins closing into Thomas Vak behind him. Noah Rovers, I think, is into the pits. Indeed, together with Viktor Ivanov. Both of them onto another set of softs, I think. Nope. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, both onto sets of softs. Pasciuto in as well from P8. Now, what will Marek Godek do? Of course, this is who we have to focus on now, because these guys are going to be making sure they can get as close to each other as possible. Now, will Godek split the strategy? Will he go onto a set of hards in this stop? And, you know, maybe try to do something different to Rovers beyond that quicker set of tyres at the end of the race. We will see, because, you know, it's definitely doable. We know the crossover is there, but you have to look at it this way. As Godek comes in, does he want to risk losing time now to potentially gain it back later, or does he feel that he needs to stay on the same strategy to have a chance? Go Speed have always been good at this. We'll see what he does on the jacks. It's another set of softs for Marek Godek. Meanwhile, Pasciuto onto the hard combat tyres. Everyone else that's coming in seems to be going onto the hards as well. Outside of Oldermenger. Oldermenger stays on softs. Rietveld onto hards. Lalu onto hards. And same with Felix. So, as Roivers comes across the start-finish line, we'll go past Godek. Godek will come out of the pit lane. And there is actually Viktor Ivanov, I believe.
Yeah.
This is going to be extremely close. Slightly slapping the pit line. It's going to be so close now. The rules on pit exit here are very tight. So, he was touching that line. Now, Netrex aren't ones to go around needlessly reporting things. But of course, in a tight championship like this, it might be needed, but it might not, because there's Ivanov trying to look round the outside. He's going to get slid into by Godek. There's contact, but he's still there. And to the inside, Godek has to slide wide, but Ivanov has to back out of it. He's not going to be happy about this. He's going to try and get the run onto the banking. This is for second place. This is to make it a NetRex 1-2. And you can see Torres in the background. Torres, who I don't think he's stopped yet. He's doing extremely well in the Bream GP car.
No, I think he has stopped, but probably underfueled by quite a bit. He stopped about 4 laps ago. So undercut and maybe underfueled that car to try and go for a different strategy. Now Ivan Leonov is going to go for the move here, down start finish.
To the inside goes Ivanov, not going to work there, almost gets chopped up. He's going to clip the grass, it's going to drop him back into the clutches. Well, into the clutches of his teammate. There's a lap down actually, so, you know, I retract my statement, everything's fine. Meanwhile, 4 seconds or so back down the road is Torres, and only about half a second back from him is Oldeminger, I think. Oldeminger's getting a bit fed up of seeing rear ends of the Bream GP cars at this point. Felix, he's been stuck behind one for the first 20 odd laps, and now he's going to be stuck behind another for the next 20 odd laps.
Well, that's up to him. I would say he should try and get past him, perhaps. But it's not easy, especially with the, I think, different wing philosophies between these two teams. Probably Burst have a bit higher wing compared to Bream GP and NetRex. That just allows him to have a bit more speed down the straight. However, Oldeminger about 3.5 tenths behind. That's the gap that we've seen that you need. It's going to be enough, though. Starting to close in. I think he's just a little bit too far back. Can go quickly, though, once that slipstream kicks in. He decides to not even take the slipstream. Just showing his nose a little bit.
Just trying to maybe force a dummy from Torres, but Torres, too smart for that one. Got to try something else, Tom. Not going to work there, my friend. Meanwhile, seems to be a Bream GP car for every Burst Simplexity car in the top 10, because Torres has got Oldeminger and Riedveld's got Hives. Meanwhile, Vosnika's back into the pit lane, Felix. That was a very, very, very short stint. Now, has something happened to Vosnika? Ah, that's what's happened to Vosnika. He is out of this race on lap 25.
Yeah, his rear tires were already struggling a lot, but what has happened exactly to him in the end now? Let's have a look.
Be interested to see. I saw he pulled into the pit lane to retire, so he's already the rear end. Has to take the MotoGP chicane there, or as some people will call it, the ARCA chicane, and yet he's just gone, you know what? I'm going to call it a day. This race is done. Screw the championship points, if I can even salvage any. I don't think it's worth me continuing, which is a shame, because we know that Jan is capable of those recovery drives. He's done it before, he did it in ACA, he can do it again in Pro, and we've seen him do it again and again. But it's a shame it's not to be this time for the NetRex driver, which means one NetRex is now out of the race, one is out of the points. So from what was 4 in the top 5, now being 2 in the top 3. So, you know, as much as NetRex will be sad, they've at least got some solid ideas. Meanwhile, here goes Cameron Roger on one of those NetRexes to the inside of Ivan Leonov. It's going to be on the outside for turn 2. Side by side as they make their way through turns 3 and into 4. He's on the inside. And the Brit has done it. El Presidente has managed to make the overtake work and has forced Leonov to make a small little error. And Cameron is now 1 place off of a point, Felix.
Yeah, great stuff. After that spin that he had earlier on in the race. Starting to come back now. And a nice overtake there on Ivan Leonov.
Very, very solid indeed. And of course, on a recovery drive, as Felix mentioned. Meanwhile, on board now with Thomas Vogt, the HM Engineering car, under pressure from Simon Frelick. Actually, he's jumped Frelick in this set of stops. And, well, he's on a softer compound of tyre to the Raw Blue car. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone goes, you know what, I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to let you go. You go chase down Marley, who will not be as nice. And I'll see you at the next pit stop, my good friend. So I have a feeling. Meanwhile, another fight that's going to be re-engaging is Torres versus Olderminger. We saw a slight little error there from Torres as the front left seems to lock going into the right-hander. Olderminger drops about 4/10 back through 2 corners alone, but the slipstream will kick in. Will he close in on the Brain GP car? He is closing, and he's not one to throw one up the inside. He's going to stick to the middle of the road and is not going to make any difference whatsoever.
Yeah, that exit out of the penultimate corner, just not good enough for Tom Olderminger to try and stay close enough to Torres to use that slipstream effectively down the start-finish straight. Again, showing his nose down the back straight here, but not enough. Really, where he needs to focus on is get a good exit out of that penultimate corner to set himself up for an overtake down the start-finish straight.
Yeah, getting that exit is so crucial. Meanwhile, Leonov into the pits. Is this going to be the second Netrex we see out of this race? I sincerely hope it isn't. But maybe issues. We'll see. Torres, another half-second ahead, so won't be a move done this time by, unless Torres locks a brake into turn 1 and goes very deep indeed. But he's been pretty flawless, and as I say that, slide comes out. Olderminger very close under braking through turn 1. He is very confident on the brakes there through 2, 3 and 4. Slight little bit of understeer there from Olderminger. Not going to make it work. These guys 5 seconds apart from, well, pretty much anyone else on track. So racing as hard as they dare. Oh, it's so amazing to see how confident Tom is on the brakes here. Just so much more confidence under braking compared to Torres. Meanwhile, makes his way into the final sector. This is where the Brain GP car has been so much weaker. Slightly tight through there. Tom doing everything he can to keep on the back of that Brain GP car, but it just doesn't seem to work. He doesn't seem to get any sort of pace or any sort of exit off of the corner, and it just really hampers him. Even with how brave he is on the brakes, you really want to be within 2/10, maybe even a 10th here into turn 1 to really know that you're going to be safe pressuring into that overtake. But it's just not seeming to work for Burst today. Although a car in the top 5 is definitely nothing to be disappointed about, and with Rietveld sat in 6th, it's a very solid haul of points today. Thought he was going to have a look there as well. Not going to be the case, however. They've got the lapped Netrex of Leonov behind them, but he is far enough back. And actually will soon be under blue flags from Rietveld and Hives, who will be getting very close for comfort in the near future. Wouldn't be surprised if Olderminger is struggling in the dirty air through that final sector, because the way that car seems to drive in clean air compared to dirty air very much seems to be the case at the moment. He has a look, hits the brakes as late as he dares, swings it back in. He really is just trying to force that turn 1 error from Torres, knowing that's where he can get past. It just doesn't seem to be working. Torres staying cool, staying calm, and most importantly, staying collected, Felix.
Yeah, definitely. He needs to, well, if he can't get past, he needs to at least make sure that he stays close for when a mistake is made by Torres. Or, of course, try to do something on strategy in a bit. There's about 33 laps to go. So, still at least one stop for everybody else. Will be coming around lap 40.
Lap 40 still feels so far away, but at the pace these guys are going, it will not be that far away at all. As I make the way across the line towards turn 1. I have a feeling that if Tom Olderminger gets stuck behind another Brain GP car for the final stint, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually, I wouldn't be surprised if I see steam coming out of the helmet of his car at the end of this race. The pain of being stuck behind someone, or at least, the same rear wing style, for the entirety of a race can be rather frustrating, especially when you play the strategy so well. And of course, both these guys have got to go onto the hard compounded tyres at the end of this race. In fact, the whole of the top 5 have. So, you know, Castle Rietveld, Zonhives and Jukka-Pekka Laulu are in very, very good stead, actually, Felix, for this final stint, if you actually look at it that way.
Yeah.
Oh, slight little wiggle there under brakes for Torres. It'll be interesting indeed. Through the final corners. And again, Torres pulls away. Similar story that we've had for the past, 10 or so laps. Across the line. Just trying to see if anyone else is relatively close, and it just seems to be everyone settling out at this point. Sort of trying to find their pace, trying to find their strategies that they think can work and make any last minute changes. Maybe save a small bit of fuel, make it a bit less of a stop. A bit less time, stopped in the box. A bit of quicker refueling. It'll be interesting to actually see if anyone pulls it off. I think Tom Oldminger might actually be quite happy being sat behind Torres for this long, knowing that he can save that much fuel going down the start-finish, down the 2 long straights here at Indianapolis. But we will see. Just over halfway through this race. Feels like it's not been on for long at all, Felix, but in fact it has been on for a long time indeed now. Lap 34 here of the United States Grand Prix. Noah Rovers is leading by 6 seconds over Marek Godek, who's a second and a half over Victor Ivanov. Oldminger and Torres have been together for the past stint, and Oldminger is getting fed up of seeing the rear end of a Braham GP as he's been stuck behind them for the past 34 laps. Rietveld up to 6th, Hives down to 7th, Vok up to 9th, not far behind Jukka-Pekka Laulu, who's in 8th. And of course, Pasciuto is down in 13th, after having a very good qualifying indeed. Meanwhile, we move our way up to the front of the field and have a look at Noah Rovers in the Netrex. The team that has been extremely solid. He's now 5.7 seconds in the lead. He heads on to lap 35. Over halfway through the race, and the drivers are looking very, very solid and consistent indeed. Back to your normal broadcasting. Regardless of that, it is now that time where everything settles down. It's what you expect in the Pro Championship. People start to find their rhythm, starting to save some form of fuel, and make sure that they can have some nice fresh tyres for when they need them. And it just makes that final stint so much easier. We knew they would need to start saving because, again, with how tight the strategy will be here, it is very, very difficult indeed. And especially knowing how long you have to go on those hard compounded tyres, you really, really hate being sat on them for more than you have to be. As we ride on board with race leader Roivers through the final few corners. Just so smooth. The car looks so planted. I guess that's the benefit of being out front. The car does not struggle whatsoever. Although, it does have traffic up the road. Not too sure who that actually is up the road in terms of traffic, but it's traffic nonetheless. Meanwhile, Pasciuto versus Robbins. This is for 12th place. Half a second between the two. Absteneo Force Bologna versus Royal Blue Racing. That's deep for Pasciuto. That's going to drop some time. It's going to drop him out of any worthwhile slipstream off the back of the Force Bologna. And these guys are about 9 seconds ahead of Barbakov right now. And they're a fair few seconds off the back of the cars in front. Replay of Tom Lombards. What has happened to the Belgian? Rear rotating a lot more than the front. Onto the grass, spins it round, locks the brakes, almost onto the circuit, reverses instantly to avoid any issue. And of course, the experienced Belgian makes sure that he causes no issues whatsoever. But a very, very weird slide indeed, Felix.
Yeah. Just lost the rear end there and ended up in the grass. We've seen that before a little bit from Tom Lombards, but yeah, today struggling once again, down in 19th place at the moment.
It's a shame to see. We all know what Lombard is capable of. He just seems to be struggling, and well, you say struggling in 19th, Felix. Well, he's DNF'd on lap 37, which means 18 runners left remaining. 3 cars outside of the points. Meanwhile, Oldermenger has gotten past Torres.
Finally,
we missed that, didn't we? Oh, Tom. Always Tom Lombert's distracting us from the racing on the circuit. Well, here is what happened into the braking. And he was a lot closer and a lot braver on the brakes was Oldermenger. And he got that car stopped nicely and actually forced Torres to have to check up on exit. Absolutely beautiful and textbook move by the burst simplicity driver of Tom Oldermenger. Meanwhile, back up to Marek Godek. You can visibly see Ivanov in the background there. Very, very close indeed. And, well, just slightly behind them is one of the back markers of this race. As they make their way out of turn 2, through 3 and into 4. Be very interesting to see if Ivanov can actually close up to the back of Godek. Of course, both drivers yet to run the hard compound tyre, so it'll be interesting to see who's quicker on that tyre compound. Again, it is one that not many drivers enjoy being on, but they have to suffer through regardless. And meanwhile, Oldermenger has actually gapped Torres by 1.5 seconds already, so that car definitely a lot better in clean air than dirty air, and he's got a lot more pace. But has the time spent behind the Brain GP car cost a potential podium for the burst simplicity driver? Well, only time will tell. We're not too far away from the second and final stops here. It'd be very, very unlikely to see 3 stops here, but of course it is possible. We're expecting 2 stops from the majority, if not the entirety of the field. But for Oldermenger, I think a 2-stop is going to be fairly certain on the cards with where he is right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if the top guys do it either. On board with Hives, he's only about 8 tenths off the back of Rietveld as he makes their way through 1, 2 and 3. Trying his best to get onto the back of that burst, and they've actually got Lalu about 3 seconds behind, so wouldn't be surprised actually if Lalu's catching these guys. His lap times have been very, very consistent indeed, so maybe Royal Blue looking for a top 6, maybe even a top 5 this race, Felix.
Yeah. Of course, they did well in the Academy series earlier today. Right now, of course, a bit dominated by the Networks guys at the front, but perhaps they'll be able to get up a bit further up the field. Still 24 laps to go, of course, so anything can still happen.
Yeah, indeed, anything can happen, and of course, if anything will happen, it'll happen here in the Pro Championship. Plenty of things that can and hopefully won't go wrong, but can go wrong for drivers, especially in such a close field as this. Meanwhile, the closest fight on track at the moment is actually between Pasciutto and Robin still. There's only 7 tenths the gap at the moment. And that obviously is coming down indeed as they make their way out onto the start-finish straight. Look like Pasciutto, not the start-finish straight, sorry, through turns 1, 2 and 3. Without forget my corner names right, my corner numbers right. Out into the back straight. Robbins just seems to be a bit stronger through the first few corners. And then Pasciutto really closes it back up. Again, the different aero philosophies of these guys in terms of setup. Different ways that these guys like their cars to drive. And of course, remember, I believe these two are both actually reserves this round, so doing a very solid job indeed. Minimal mistakes, and the pace has not been bad at all. Slight little lock-up from Robbins, a slight little wheel on exit as well. Just inviting Pasciutto through, and Torres is in. Torres is in on lap 41 from 5th place. Adam Rainey in as well. Now, we expected the hard tyres for Torres, of course, yet to run them. Rainey, I believe, yet to run them as well. Actually, no, I believe he isn't. Meanwhile, Robbins wide through turn 1. There's Pasciutto trying to have a look. not going to work there because of the way that the corner tightens up, but this is now close for the top 10. Of course, it's only the top 10 on track. It'll be 11th once the pit cycles phase out, unless anyone has any major issues. Robbins with a big slide through the chicane. Onto the back straight. What can Pasciuto do in that Royal Blue Racing car? Makes his way through the left-hander. Are the tyres finally gone on Robbins' car? Have the slides taken their toll? Or has it just been a small little error? Pasciuto dropping time there, the rear, not wanting to grip, not wanting to give him traction. Through the final sector now. These guys getting ever closer. Robbins bails into the pit lane. Now it's time. Meanwhile, Hives, Vok, Rydveld and Frelick all in as well for their final stops. Now, what has happened to Torres? Lights the rears up on exit. Makes his way down towards turn 1. Has a Royal Blue car on exit. Turns left. Turns right. Everything seems to be okay there. Through the right-hander. The rears go up. Nothing seems to be wrong here. So just a nice little replay of him being overtaken by a Royal Blue car out of the pit lane. Meanwhile, into the pits comes Godek and Ivanov. Now, this will be crucial. This is crucial. Who will get out the pits first? Who will get a better stop? Both, of course, onto the harder compactor tyres. Down off the jacks goes the Netrex. Down off the jacks goes the Go Speed. Godek is moving. Ivanov is moving. Has he gained much time? He definitely has. He's a lot closer than he was before the stops. Through will go Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Oldemeng is in as well. Pasciuto is in as well. Out of the pits they will go. Now that is definitely a closer gap than it was. Well, it's going to be a 20 lap or so sprint to the finish between these guys. And we'll see, will it be a Netrex 1-2 here today? Royal Blue cars having to work their way around each other as Barbakov comes in as well. Out will come Pasciuto as Fletcher pulls in. Through goes Vok, through goes Hives. Well, Oldemanga could be happy. He's out in front of Torres. But, well, Rydveld is now going to be stuck in a Brain GP sandwich, it seems. But let's put it this way. Oldemanga, he knows that he's going to potentially have a 4th place, because Lalu will be in soon, I believe this time by. Roivas is in the pit lane. He's already leaving the pit lane. He is going to have a monumental gap over Godek and Ivanov. He's already going through turn 1. 2nd and 3rd have only just crossed the line now. About 8-second gap at least. That is extremely impressive from Roivas to be that far ahead at the end of the final stops. Out onto the back straight. And we will have a fight for P9 because Vok is out in front of Frelick. And of course, those two on alternate tyre sets now. Because of the way that the stops worked out. Traffic getting out of the way nice and easily. I believe that's Matthew Tucson. Meanwhile, another fight is Lalu and Hives because Lalu's in 8th. He's ahead of Vok. He's looking good for a top 7 here. Is Lalu. And of course, 1 lap younger tyres compared to Hives. He's going to be looking to make up as much time as he can. Half a second back as they enter through the middle sector, coming towards the final sector now. Can the Royal Blue Racing car do anything about the Brain GP car? Well, we're going to have a look at Cameron Roger. He's made his final stop. He's now challenging Danny Robbins for P12. Cameron back into the points after the spin at the start of this race. Recovery drive central from El Presidente.
I haven't done his pit stop, by the way, yet.
Oh, he hasn't done his pit stop. I take that back. Ignore everything I said. Cameron's not as impressive as I originally thought.
Oh well.
Oh well. You know, such is life. And as we say that, he's going to do another lap. Guess he's doing it just for fun at this point. Meanwhile, Lalu, 2/10. Just now 3/10 off the back of Hives as they make their way through first sector. Over the chicane. And it's going to be a beautiful run. He's not going to be able to do anything here, but he's going to be beautifully set up for that final sector. through the left-hander, through the right-hander. Quick right, left. The cars both seeming so planted on the fresh tyres. Zoltan Hives feeling a lot more comfortable now, I feel. And Lalu feeling back in his element. Of course, plenty of points on offer. Remember, these guys, even if they're not necessarily high up in the main championship, this is all important for the Triple Crown. Onto the start-finish straight. He's within 0.4 of a second. The slipstream is going to be nice and pretty. Hives moving over just slightly. He's going, you're not going to dive me here. And Lalu goes, all right, I'll sit behind you for another lap. Meanwhile, Felix getting very close to the back of Thomas Vok. This is what we expected to happen. We knew that these two would get nice and close because of the way that the strategies worked out. Vok got past Felix on the softer tyres. And, well, Felix going to be having a look and trying to get past on the softer combated tyres this time by. And, well, if there's any contact further up, could be looking at a very good place indeed. Meanwhile, Roger into the pits and down to 17th. So, order has resumed. Meanwhile, one thing to note, Rietveld only 2 seconds off the back of Torres, potentially double top 5 incoming for Burst Simplexity Esports. As we switch back up to the fight for 7th between Hives and Lalu. Of course, we'll keep an eye on the fight between Vok and Felix slightly further back. Down the start-finish straight they will go. And into turn 1, it will be tip and toe because of how close these guys are going to be to the edge of that braking performance. No changes there. Any changes behind? Not at all this time by everyone. Line astern. Nearly lap 48 here as Ivan Leonov makes his final pit stop for Netrex. Fletcher will go through back into the final points paying position of 15th. 6 seconds off the back of Cosmo Pasciuto, who is of course only about 0.8 off the back of Barbakov, his teammate. Meanwhile, Lalu as close as he's ever been to the back of Hives. Bit of a slide there from Hives as well. Not going to get the best performance out of the final corners. Will this open a gap for Lalu? Maybe, maybe not. Into turn 1 they will go. We're looking from the back of the Brain GP Cup. And no change this time by, and no change behind either. Will Pasciuto get past Barbakov because that is only 0.4 of a second as well. The two teammates on differing strategies. The question is, how hard are they willing to race each other for this? Well, my guess is they're going to race each other relatively hard. Pasciuto to the inside. And a lift off from Barbakov lets him go. Thinks better of it. And knows that his teammate is a lot quicker. Goes, yeah, you know what? You make the overtake, I'm not going to fight you. So Pasciuto, can he gain 10 seconds in just over 10 laps? Well, he needs to be a second a lap quicker than Robbins, which he hasn't been for the majority of this race, so it'll be a tall order. But, of course, fresh softs, it is very doable indeed. Slight little error from Lalu. Meanwhile, Cameron Rogers trying to find his way past Ivan Leonov. Cameron, I think he just got overtaken. Oh, I think, sorry, yeah, no, apologies. He did just get overtaken. That it was very close out of the out lap. Of course, Cameron on the harder compound of tyres. Meanwhile, Simon Frölich, half a second off the back of Thomas Vok. HM Engineering in the top 10 once again here today. I believe the sole HM Engineering car in this race today. And of course, remember, all this action brought to you by 3D Rap, Mazita Esports, and SimLab. Beautiful sound as they make their way onto the banking. Frölich has been looking at the back of that ground effect car. Not ground effect. Oh, jeez. HM Engineering car. I'm going through all of the G's and still the wrong letter. It's the colour schemes, Felix. It's what it's doing to me. Meanwhile, onto the front straight they will go once again, and very defensive straight away from Vok. maybe a potential little error there. Doubt it, but got very defensive very quickly. You can just see completely clear track behind. They have got an eternity to Adam Rainey behind 11th Felix.
Our Rovers, in the meantime, still having a very comfortable lead to Marek Godek, 7.2 seconds at the moment, with 13 laps to go. I think Rovers has really got this in the bag. Ivanov trying to still creep closer and closer to Marek Godek, but really been able to do so in the last few laps. And unless something really changes here, I don't think that's going to be any different in the final stages of this race. Back marker getting out of the way nicely. Kalalu's back a bit further. Same applies to Simon Freilich. This battle's slowly edging towards Hives and Wak, respectively, as we head on for another lap. Strategy-wise, within the top 10, effectively everyone on a similar strategy, just cuts Rietveld, who was currently on the soft tires. Same for Hives and Lalu, of course, but Rietveld, pace-wise, is closing in a bit to Torres. Last lap was about 6/10 a lap quicker, but he needs to also get past him, of course, which is not going to be easy. But now the gap between them is about a second. Ooh, bit of a lock up there from Torres. It's not going to help his tires or his pace, as Rietveld try to creep closer and closer now. But last lap, not really gained a lot, a few tenths, but needs a bit more. He really wants to attack Torres for that 5th position. Ivan Leonov is also starting to close into Stoyan Barbakov. He's actually already passed him. Or, yeah, just flew past him. Leonov on a fresh set of the soft tires compared to Barbakov's older hards. So that wasn't too difficult an overtake. But of course, Leonov, after that incident in the beginning of the race, still fighting for just a few points. Right now has a 6-second gap to Sergio Fletcher in front of him and 10 laps to close that in. Probably will be able to close it in, but getting past will be difficult for him. Rietveld not really closing in anymore. Starting to get stuck slightly behind Torres now. Torres also picking up the pace a bit more now. Perhaps has been conserving his tires, saving some fuel.
Apologies there, Felix. It seemed that I was having some technical difficulties. Currently a bit of a thunderstorm up where I am, so slight little outages and such. Thankfully, everything okay now. And hopefully should be for the remainder of this race. As we head on to lap 55 of 63. Not many laps to go and not long now until Noah Roivers can take the first victory here for the Triple Crown, so long as he actually gets there. Of course, no doubts in my mind that he will, but of course, anything is possible. And as we ride on board with Victor Ivanov, you can see that Ghost Speed car not far up the road. He's going to be wanting to catch up to Godek, but he just knows that Godek is just on pace with him, if not just ever so slightly quicker.
Yeah, they've been pretty evenly matched throughout the entire race so far. Danny Robbins, he is closing into Adam Rainey, his teammate. He'll be able to do something. I think Cameron has had an incident again, so we'll have a look at that in a bit. I think it might have been with Barbikov, but wait and see if Robbins is able to do anything. I don't think so. Let's have a look.
I don't think the teammates will fight each other too hard either. Going to the replay. Let's see what Cameron has done. On the curb. On the throttle. The car gets nice and loose over the curb.
Interesting.
Someone forgot to put 50p in the meter. That's all I'll say on that one. Someone forgot to feed the hamster running Cameron's internet. Meanwhile, Barbikov had his own incident and called it a day. From what I can see.
Yeah, seems like that indeed. Lalu once again, close to Hives, but not really close enough to get past him. These two have been evenly matched on pace.
And another thing to note as well, Felix, 1 second between Rydfeldt and Torres. That fight for P5 in this race to get 2 burst cars in the top 5 is getting close as well. It'll be interesting to see if the Dutchman can find his way past. But meanwhile, Lalu is looking to find his way past Hives, and I don't think he'll get it this time by. He's half a second back. You've got to be within 0.3 of a second really to be challenging for a move into turn 1. So this time by, Lalu is just going to have to sit there. And maybe he's taking it easy. Maybe he's going, you know what? I don't think I can get this anymore. I might just relax and let this race play out. It's a solid haul of points. And that's all I'm really worried about. Speaking of points, however, Ivan Leonov's into the points now, and he's looking at the back of Simon Fletcher. As he looks to the inside, that's very, very late from Leonov. He nearly actually clips the back of the Aston Airforce Polonia car. And, well, for good measure, he then runs it wide and lets Fletcher straight back through. And then he has Matthew Tusen behind. Tusen, I wouldn't be surprised if he sits there. Doubt he's going to do anything.
Showing himself for the camera a little bit.
Yeah, as I say, he knows he's on television. Hi, Ma, I'm on camera. And does a little weave, a little jive to say hi. Or probably just to let Leonov know that he's there, in case Leonov does anything. Meanwhile, Lalu still stuck behind the Brand GP rear wing of Hives. Rydfeldt has got the gap down to 0.8 between him and Torres now, as they make their way onto the back straight. Rainey is only half a second off the back of his teammate Danny Robbins. Actually, that's the point. Danny Robbins has gotten past Adam Rainey. So I don't think I was too wrong there, saying that they wouldn't fight each other too hard at least. Gap now, half a second between Rydfeldt and Torres. I wouldn't be surprised if Rydfeldt is within half a second at the end of the next lap. But he hasn't got much time to do it at all, because we've only got 5 laps to go, sorry. Mathematics is not my strong point, apparently. But 5 laps to go for these guys. Coming into turn 1, it is 0.7 of a second, the gap. And Rydfeldt can see the rear wing of that Brain GP car getting closer and closer. He's a bit fed up of seeing the back of Brain GP cars, probably similar to Oldenmenger, but at least Oldenmenger's had, a whole stint without them. Whereas Cass has kind of had to deal with them the whole race. I think he'll be happy to see Torres behind him in his mirrors as well. Great, of course, great defensive driving from Hives and Torres. Very solid points haul for Brem GP as well this round. Either 5th and 7th or 6th and 7th. A very, very good points haul as well. Especially considering they're the only 2 cars out there on track today for Brem GP after Chateaupadlis' retirement. Through the final few corners. Torres does like that wider line, Felix. He does like to square that corner off, and it doesn't lose him much time. But Rietveld, 6/10 of a second. He seems to be gaining a 10th to a 10th and a half, maybe even 2/10 a lap at a stretch. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. 4 laps to go. I don't think it will be. But what will be enough is that 7.5 second gap up front at the moment for Noah Roivers. Again, ahead of Marek Godek. He has been faultless this entire race. Took the pole, probably taken the fastest lap if I'm correct. And
yep.
He's led pretty much every lap outside of the pit cycle, and he's going to take the Grand Slam with a victory. So, you know, for Noah Roivers and for Netrex, they can be very, very pleased with their Pro Grand Prix race. And that's a slight tap on the wall for Rietveld as well. Got to be careful. You don't have too many of them. You'll start to damage the suspension if you're not careful. And through the final corner, it is half a second. I think it'll be a final lap do or die overtake, Felix, for that 5th place from Rietveld. So he's gaining about a 10th or so a lap to this point. He's going to be within 3/10 coming onto that final lap, and it is going to be very, very tight into turn 1, I feel.
Yeah, 3 to go, including this one for them. Of course, Roivers is a bit further in front, leading the race. He'll be starting the second to last lap.
Ultimate. Another fight that's close as well is Pasciuto. He's gotten up onto the back of Rainey and Robbins for 11th and 12th. So maybe Royal Blue looking to snatch some more points here today away from some of their rivals. Rietveld dropping back a fair bit as well this lap. And I think if he's not within 4/10 across the line, I don't think he's going to have a chance to get past that Brem GP car without a mistake. 2 laps to go here at Indianapolis for Pro. And I don't think Rietveld is going to find a way past. They have got traffic in front, but I doubt that traffic is going to cause too many problems. Rietveld actually looks like he's starting to coast now. He looks like he's cruising a bit. Looks like maybe he's taking a bit less out of the car, a bit less out of the tyres. Maybe the tyres have died on him with how hard he's had to push.
Yeah, could very well be long stint, of course, on these soft tyres. 19 laps and still 2 to go.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, Pasciuto's only 2/10 off the back of Adam Rainey now. So those guys are very, very close indeed. Meanwhile, final lap, white flag. You can actually see Rainey and Pasciuto there, side by side, almost into turn 1. Pasciuto to the outside of turn 1. Rainey going to cut the door shut on the exit. There was a car. I thought I saw a car on the left there. It was just a service vehicle, but a very, very big rear end slide for Pasciuto is going to nullify any chance he had. This, of course, is the final lap. They will not have another time of asking. So as Noah Roivers will go past to take the checkered flag this time by, these guys are going to be looking to take the checkered flag and maybe snatch a point in terms of Pasciuto for Royal Blue. But we have to go back to the front. The man that has been flawless, faultless and perfection this whole race. Hasn't put a foot wrong. Run the strategy to perfection. And as he makes his way through the final 2 corners, it's going to be a win in the United States of America. It's going to be a win in the Triple Crown. It's going to be a win in Pro for Noah Roivers of Netrex. And he is very happy about that indeed. Second place is going to go the way of Marek Godek. Third will go to Viktor Ivanov. It's a Netrex 1, 3, 2 of them on the podium. Fourth place will be Tom Oldermenger. A very, very solid drive from the Burst Simplexity eSports driver. Fifth, it will be Torres. He has held on. A top 5 for Brahim GP. 6th will be Rietveld. 7th will be Zoltan Hives. 8th will be Jukka-Pekka Laulu. And 9th is going to go the way of Thomas Vock. He has held on. He has pulled away from Simon Frelick, actually. So the strategy is paid off. The move paid off. And Simon Frelick will round out the top 10. He will finish ahead of the final car that's on the lead lap, which is Danny Robbins in 11th. And I think Noah Roivers has just about blown that engine up, Felix.
Yeah, it's about to. So pushing it to the limit in this Pro Championship. And indeed, a great dominant race once again by Noah Roivers, showing he's definitely worthy of leading this championship, and will be leading the Triple Crown for now, of course, as well, coming into these next 2 races. But yeah, great race once again by Noah Roivers.
Well, at the end of another amazing race here in the Pro Championship, Roivers takes the win over Godek and Ivanov on the podium. Oderbenger 4th with Torres, Rietveld, Hives, Lalu, Vok and Frelick rounding out the rest of the top 10 this round. The great set of racing here. Robbins, Rainey, Pasciuto, Leonov, Fletcher, the final points paying positions with Cameron Roger just outside of the points in 16th. Matthew Tusen, the final runner in this race, in 17th, and your retirements. Stoyan Barbukov, Tom Lomberts, Jan Vosnica, George Chetapantelis, and Arif Roslan. Felix, what a race we've had today. Played out strategy-wise, we had some very solid racing, but especially with the changes that were made to the cars for this round, looking forward towards the rest of the calendar, I think there's definitely some progress that has been made in forward direction, and I think we're looking forward to a cracking second half of the season.
Definitely provisional championship standings after this race, then Noah Roivers leading by that's quite a bit of a margin to Tom Oldermenger. Jan Vosselinga dropping with a 0 points finish, of course. Ivan Leonov getting a few points but losing quite a bit of ground. Zoltzuks wasn't here today, so no points for him. Rietveld gaining some points together with Marek Godek now, who's also gained quite a few points. The top 10 still quite close to each other, but Noah Roivers, he's leading quite comfortably in the Pro Championship right now.
I think Noah can be very, very happy with that indeed. And of course, next up, you will have your favourite man back in the booth, hopefully, for the Pro Championship. It'll be on the 30th of May this year, and it'll be the Azure Grand Prix. We go to the Principality. Of course, a very, very tight street circuit, and one that will be very much interesting to watch from a strategy perspective. Of course, we then will have the French Grand Prix, the Belgian Grand Prix, Japanese, Malaysian and Brazilian Grand Prix to round the year out. And Felix, of course, as always, it's been a pleasure to broadcast the Pro Championship here, brought to you by Mazita eSports, 3D app and Simla. But of course, from myself here, standing in for Aidan Millwood, it has been an amazing race here in the Pro Championship. And until next time, it's goodbye for now.